Secret number 5 is your mind's antivirus program. I don't know about you, but on my computer I have a popular antivirus program. There's a number of them out there, but the purpose of all of them is to keep those viruses, at least that's what we call them, a computer virus, something that threatens the data that's on our hard drive in our computer from doing that, from making our computer run slower or make mistakes or not work the way that it's supposed to work. Well, guess what? That didn't originate with the computer. Our mind has an antivirus program built into it that is designed to protect not only the mind, but the body. The problem is that your antivirus program may literally be what's making you sick. Now, why in the world would it do that? We have two belief systems. Our first one is a stimulus response belief system. What does stimulus response mean? It means to seek pleasure and avoid pain. This is the one that we're born with, the one that we have even in utero when we're in our mother's womb. It's to seek a comfortable temperature. Too cold causes us to react. Too hot causes us to react. If you have a little baby who's in his crib and you come in and you talk to him gently and lovingly, "Oh, you are so cute. I am so happy to meet you. Aren't you just the most beautiful?" How does the baby react? They're attracted to that. They like that. They reach for it. They love it. On the other hand, if you come into a little baby's room and they're in the crib and you blare out hard rock music, what does that do? It scares them to death. They're going to start crying very quickly. Some of you may be familiar with the studies they've done where they've played like Mozart around plants, and the plants literally try to wrap around the thing that's producing that music. They're trying to get to it. And when they play like hard rock, the plants grow away from it, and if they keep playing it long enough, it can literally kill the plant. That is stimulus response, and that's how our first belief system works. It's a stimulus response belief system. We seek pleasure and avoid pain. There are 3 types of memories that we have as part of this stimulus response belief system. The first ones are inherited memories. We inherit thousands of memories from our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, and on up to many generations. Now, we're not conscious that those are there, but they are. Well, how do we know? Well, one of the ways that we know that's come along recently is we used to believe that all the memories were stored in the brain until 2 things happened. Number 1, they cut out about every part of the brain and the memories were still there. And number 2, they started doing organ transplants. And guess what? People started receiving more than just the organs. They started receiving food preferences, and their personalities would change. They would start having dreams of the other person's life, the donor's life. Someone sent me by internet the other day a story of one where the recipient of the organ called the police, and she didn't know who the donor was, but she called the police and she said, "Hi, I'm an organ recipient, and I know that the person that donated this organ was murdered. And I can tell you where they live, what their name is, how the murder occurred," and they relayed to the police intricate details of the crime scene that only the people that were there knew. It was never published. And the police literally hung up the phone with her, drove to the address she had told them, and picked up the murderer. And all of that was true. Well, we inherit those memories, not just if we have organ transplants, but from our ancestry. So those are the first kind of memories, our inherited ones. So you may be thinking, does that mean that I can inherit a trauma cellular memory from my ancestry and it be causing all these problems in me? The answer is yes. But the news is wonderful, because now with the healing codes, you've got a way to heal those even though you have no idea they're even there or what they are. So that's the first kind of cell memory, inherited. Number 2 is pre-language and logical thinking memories. Before we are able to verbalize, we have lots of stuff happen to us. We have wonderful things, birthday parties, and presents, and people being nice to us. We also have scary things, like maybe Big Brother's rock music blaring, or maybe Mom, when she gets irritated because I knocked something over, yelling at me, even though she's not trying to be mean, it's just a reaction. But that becomes a fear thing in me, So those pre-language and pre-logical thinking memories become part of this stimulus response belief system. And then number 3, and the most logical one that everybody knows about, are trauma memories. Now, these trauma memories are amazing, because when they are encoded into us, that almost always happens with a release of adrenaline and with the shutting down of higher conscious rational thinking. Now, why is that important? Because when these trauma memories are reactivated, that adrenaline is released again, and my higher intellectual thinking is also turned off. I had a client, and this kept happening, only she didn't know what was happening. And here's what happened with her. All through her day, and this had been going on for years, she would just come to a place where she was confused. She couldn't seem to think clearly. It seemed like that she was all of a sudden dumb when she was a very intelligent lady. And she was so frustrated, and her health started going downhill. What we found as to what was causing this was the color yellow. Now that sounds crazy, but here's how it happened. In a trauma memory that she had, there was a gentleman wearing a yellow shirt. So every time, and this trauma memory was such a big deal in her life, that every time she saw the color yellow, it reactivated that trauma, and she was dumbed down. Her higher intellectual thinking was turned down or off. Her stress was kicked in, so her adrenaline starts releasing, and over time she literally starts getting sick as well as being confused whenever that happened. When we healed the memory, the cellular memory that came from, every bit of it went away, and she's fine with yellow today. Let me give you another example to kind of bring all of this together. My youngest son is named George, and he's 5 now, but when he was about a year old, a trauma event happened in his life. We got stuck outside in a huge electrical thunderstorm in the summer, and it was my fault. It was really cool as it was just starting to come in before the lightning and everything. And I thought, let's stay a little bit longer. The wind is blowing and it's cool. There's leaves blowing around. And we stayed too long. And before we got in the house, this huge storm hit. There was lightning cracking all over the place. And George was traumatized. Now, it's very interesting. Another point about that. He wasn't really traumatized so much by the storm. The thing that really traumatized him is he saw that I was scared. And that's one to chew on for a while. But anyway, let me share with you what happened. We're in this thunderstorm, and we get in the house fine, but George is obviously really upset. And for months after that, now George could talk at this time, and he knew lots of stuff. And after this, a cloud would float across a blue sky, and George would start crying. We'd say, George, what's going on? It's going to storm, we better get in. You know what? no matter how much we used logic in trying to convince him that he was not in any danger, it made no difference. He was terrified. A little gust of wind would come by on a perfectly clear day. Same thing. He could hear thunder miles away and just go into a panic. Okay? Well, why? Because that stimulus response belief system that in that instance was coming from a trauma in his life, once that thing is reactivated, your rational thinking is turned off or way down. Okay? So when that happens, logical thinking doesn't make any difference. It was the same when Tracy, my wife, was depressed, and I would try to convince her with logic as to why she didn't need to be depressed. Once these stimulus response belief system cellular memories are reactivated, and they can be reactivated without us ever knowing what's going on, we become dumbed down, it drains our energy, and we come at everything from a negative perspective, and we can't help it. And logic doesn't help, and we're paralyzed a lot of the time. Now, this happens on a continuum. It can be completely like with George, where he's just in a panic, or it can be enough just that I feel off. But here's the rule of thumb. Anytime I'm having a feeling that does not fit with my current circumstances, I am having a stimulus response belief system event that is being reactivated right now. You can just take it to the bank. Well, you say, well, that's terrible. No, it's not. It's great, because it can guide us right to these cellular memories that need to be healed, and that's what the healing code's all about. So now, for the first time that I know of, we can heal the stimulus response, the trauma memories, the inherited and pre-language memories. We can heal the stimulus response belief system, destructive cellular memories automatically, and it will absolutely change our whole life. So that's secret number 5, the stimulus response belief system.